What's going on, everybody? Doppler coming to you here from the Gear Garage. Hope you're having a great day. This is going to be 2 tons of fun tonight. So let's talk gear. We're going to talk about buying. We're going to talk about selling. We're going to talk about collecting. And it's going to be all sorts of fun because it kind of encompasses the whole thing. And the great thing is that we're not just going to be talking about guitar gear. We're largely going to be talking about guitar gear, but not exclusively. What's going on, everybody? Oh, no. There will be none of that. A great day. Facebook. No. Don't do that. 2 tons of fun. No. Oh, I see. That's going to be you over there on YouTube. No. There is none of that. None of that is going on tonight. No. You know, those leaky browsers, in any case, as I was saying before, I so rudely interrupted myself, Mr. Doppler. We are going to be talking about the nuances of kind of what to look for, how to sell your gear. You know, one of the great things about this particular season is I've been rocking Reverb pretty hard. Literally everything that I've listed on Reverb, I've sold within 24 hours. Which is pretty awesome given the fact that these are slightly strange times. So I want to go through some of my Reverb secrets, which aren't really that big a secret if you can deal with basically cleaning gear and shooting it nicely. So I'm going to show you some of my photos, all of which were shot on my little handy dandy. You probably have one in your hip pocket or somewhere. Maybe you're watching it. And, you know, I just really want to kind of have a conversation about gear, you know, kind of what to look for. Again, you know, as you're in the market for new gear, some of the tools that I use to kind of survey gear as I'm looking at it. And so I've got a couple of things that, you know, because I work for a magazine, one of the things that I always want to do, it's an interesting thing. You know, if you review a piece of gear and you love it, and then you happen to go out to your favorite retailer, which for me is Sweetwater, and you happen to see that some people had a bad experience with it, that does not reflect well on me because, you know, people, you know, if I write something, whether they know me personally or not, they're like, oh, they seem to think it was good. And if it is problematic and I didn't do my due diligence, then I'm giving somebody else a problem. It's an interesting thing because every so often somebody will point blank me here on the show or one of the shows that I do and kind of go, what about this? Now, most of the time, you know, the gear that's on the market these days is really good. But every so often there's just a dog that's just like, oh, you don't want to get that. And somebody kind of point blanks me on a device that I will not mention by name tonight, but it's from a company whose gear that I love. But this one particular piece just like, it was just a thorn in my side. I couldn't get it to work. And eventually I just kind of gave up on it. And I ended up investing in it enough that it was painful. So in any case, I'm going to delve into the world of, first of all, chat. Oh, no. I've got an overlay there. No. You, Mr. Overlay, have got to go by my, holy cow. Check your scenes, Doppler. Okay, so in any case, first of all, everybody that's there, I hope you had an awesome day. It's a pleasure to see you here. And Melissa Doppler over there on YouTube, it's pretty funny. My own wife, she's just like, Doug knows a lot about buying and selling gear, and she can attest to that. Very true. So in any case, this is hi, Eric and Melissa. This is one of my favorite parts is actually checking in with people. And on the tube, YouTube's cruising along over here on Facebook. Let me just check in and take a quick moment and say hello. Richard, Chris, and Lewis. Hello, guys. Now, Louis Olvera, what you got to understand about Lewis and I, is that we played in a band in 9th grade together called Rampage. Now, at that point, my choice of gear was predicated on one primary need, which was how loud it could actually get. So it's such a thrill to have Lewis here because we are dear old friends, more friends than old, but the old part is somewhat accurate as well. But the thing is, we played what was my 9th grade, and I think Lewis's 10th grade, talent show. And we won, by the way. But the funny thing is, in the school paper, it said, the thing that must have impressed the judges so much was the sheer volume at which we played. and it was just it was a whole thing. So in any case, Lewis, what a pleasure. Lewis had amongst other things, this is the great thing is you think back across the years of all the different guitars that have come and gone. Lewis had this Lake Placid blue, I believe it was a Mustang, beautiful guitar. He also had a natural finish Les Paul custom, and at that point I would have been playing the L6 Deluxe, which was one of the worst guitars Gibson's ever made. That guitar is gone. Okay, Richard Doyle, nice to see you, my friend. Always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us. I hope all is well on the job front. Russell Keenan, how are you, my friend? I hope you had an awesome day. And Eric Martin Bureau, hello to my friends in Canada. Good to see you. Richard, or I should say Rich Breimer, hello to you. Chris Stark, always a pleasure. Ramiro, hola amigo, ¿qué pasa? Although I guess you speak no. You speak Spanish. There we go. We're doing good. Okay, there we go. Thanks for the Rich. Appreciate the heads up on the video. Gary Whitesides and Stephen Rader Vanderzel. Hello, Gary. Great to see you. Gary is a student of mine from what 20 plus years ago. Great to see you, my friend. Melissa Doppler, Glenn Peters, another Canadian. We're doing well above the border here. Obviously, there's a lot of interesting gear. This is awesome. Darren, pleasure. What's up, Carrie? Naeem, hello. Nice to meet you. I don't think we've met. Angie Art, comment allez-vous? You sent me a message on Messenger, and in the midst of craziness, I did not get a chance to reply. So I trust all is well in France, where we've got all the French-speaking opportunities here. This is great. Stephen Pearson, hello. And Brian Polson, hello. There we go, Ramiro. Awesome. Graham Beck, hello, my friend. Good to see you. Awesome. Okay, well, so let's delve into a couple of things. So the first thing that I do whenever I'm looking for a new piece of gear, once I've kind of decided what it's going to be, and let's see if the internet is going to be friendly with us, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be. So we're just going to jump right over to Safari here. There we go. And I'm going to choose the appropriate window, and we're going to head over to Sweetwater. Now, there are a couple of things that I always do on Sweetwater. First of all, let's say I'm looking for a Fender Strat, and I hopefully spell it correctly. And what I love about, not a Fender Strain, come on, a Fender Stratocaster. There we go. So with Sweetwater, what I always do, first of all, I want to know what is most popular. So this little box here is very valuable. It allows me to sort by price, but I always want to know what's most popular. Because first of all, when I'm looking for a piece of gear, I want to know what other people are thinking about. It also tells me a little bit about what the resale opportunity is going to be. If something's not popular when it's new, generally, trust me, it ain't going to be popular when it's old. Okay, so the deal is that, imagine that, a white Strat with a maple board, highly popular. Now, let's see as we scroll down here, the interesting thing about our friends over at Fender, they have a few guitars. But, let's just say, for example, I was in the market for a Stratocaster. What are the different things that I would be looking at? Again, just purely buying online, I would be looking at, okay, I'm going to have a price point so I can actually choose in the price range here. But let's just say I'm thinking about, let me forget price for a minute. Let me see what is most popular. Now, just as a quick aside, and I'm going to jump back out of Safari for just a moment. Doppler back at you. As we're looking at this thing, we know we want a Strat, but we don't necessarily, again, know how much money we want to spend. It's very strange buying gear online that you've never played. And I'm an old school guy. I grew up, going with my friends from junior high school and high school, going in and annoying people at music stores and strumming guitars. I was like that guy in those, Wayne's World or whatever. But the thing is you actually had that tactile sense. So without that, we quite often are buying an instrument based on, dare I say, looks. Now, I don't know about you, but when it comes to a vintage-looking Strat and a pink Strat, actually the funny thing is Melissa, the wife that is, did not get this. She was like, what's up with that? And I saw this guitar. This is on review from the folks at Fender. I should say for review from the folks at Fender. And this guitar is awesome. It's beautiful. It's got this great vintage vibe. It's got the little bridge cover, and I kind of saw that when it got released. No, and they kind of come up with a list of stuff that you can kind of pick from to review, which is kind of like shopping without buying. It's yeah, I know. In any case, amazing opportunity. But the best part is I get a chance to go. Hey, this is what I liked. This is what I didn't like. That guitar just rules. Just I love that guitar. And so the point being, as a matter of fact, I think a guy named Sean V, bought a guitar just like that because of the demo that I did. And that's kind of the whole point. When you kind of, people see it in action, they get a chance to go, okay, that's cool. The point being is that visual part is a huge part of why we buy an instrument. And absolutely usually the worst possible criteria to buy an instrument. All right, heading back over to our little Safari here. And I'm using Safari. Hang on. Oh, I'm back here. I'm going to throw in a couple little techie things here and there. One of the things that is happening next week, do not miss next week. I have the founders of Ecamm Live, my go-to streaming software. They're coming on the show, and it's basically, the show is going to be streaming for musicians. So we're going to talk through all the wacky stuff that I've learned, all the stupid mistakes that I've made, like having last night's image up from last night's show when I copied over a scene. And, here's the thing, is at this point, like, I'm pretty bulletproof, short of the sorts of things we never mentioned in the middle of a stream potentially happening, because we just don't. Most of the things that could go wrong, looping back audio, all of that stuff, I'm kind of like, yeah, whatever. And it doesn't really bother me. But these guys, I was watching their live stream today, and they're geniuses. So between kind of my crazy, plugging as many crazy things in as many different ways, and for those of us that teach music, how we integrate Zoom into that equation, all these things and more, we're going to be talking about it with some guys that are serious experts. So back to our previous program, heading back over to the land of sweetness. So as we're kind of looking at these various Sweetwater instruments, I'm thinking about, okay, what here kind of appeals to me and why? And, the interesting thing is that the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's the Sweet Virginia Strat that's here. That's the Eric Johnson guitar. It's actually, sorry, it's called the Virginia Strat. But that's a lovely instrument, and I've had a chance to spend some time playing that. That's here on loan from the Fender folks. And one could wonder if at some point I wouldn't be having the opportunity to invite a certain Eric Johnson onto the show, and I don't have an answer yet, but I am in motion on that, and I cannot wait. So, the interesting thing is, as we look at these, the Sweetwater folks have done a nice job of mixing up the colors. I'm a sucker for anything that's surf green, so that Beck Stratocaster obviously catches my attention. Again, the humbucker and the bridge, other variations that we're looking for as we're checking stuff out. And, then we kind of begin to go, okay, well, let's take a look at this American Professional here, 1624, and this is the secret sauce. All right, this right here, and I realize if you're on a mobile device, I apologize. 5 stars with 38 reviews. Okay, that basically is the shut up and take my money if I'm interested kind of thing. Because, then I click on the reviews, because the other part is quite often if there's enough 5-star reviews, on average, one will be somebody that's a whiner. But the thing about the whiners, just like the trolls, is honestly, they're kind of right sometimes. Even though their delivery kind of sucketh massively, you don't want to miss what somebody who really is dissing on a piece of gear. But again, the last reason you want to buy an instrument is because of the way it looks. But holy cow, ladies and gentlemen, that right there is a beautiful guitar. All right, I digress into Stratland. So the point being is that, again, the ability to kind of sort this by what's most popular, to answer the implicit question here, do I actually know what's most popular? The quantifying factors is that most popular in the past 60 seconds? Well, no. Is it probably 24 hours? Maybe. I think it's somewhere around 72 hours has been my general experience. They shift, but they don't seem to shift like that much. But what's great about this is if you're looking for a specific piece of gear, This is great. Now, let's take this to another step. I am usually, when I'm in the market for something, I know what I'm looking for, which is why the 5-star reviews and the glowing response. I mean, 38 5-star reviews. I mean, seriously, like that is kind of like, again, shut up and take my money now, please. And that's basically been my experience with this guitar. Just like, okay, this is great. I love it. Just like, it's just great. So that said, what if we're looking for something we don't know anything about? So I'm actually going to jump over here, and I'm going to play unfair here, but not in a bad way. So let's see. I think I can get to this video from right here. Well, first of all, okay, so we're in most popular. I mean, holy cow, folks. I mean, like, if you're looking for a brand to go with, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What a moron. Holy cow, that's why we have the confidence monitor. My bad. So as we're looking at the USB audio interfaces, I'm at the point where I don't even have to see the feedback in the comments like, Doppler's on the wrong screen. So the thing is that if you look at USB audio interfaces, sorted by most popular, the top 5 are all Focusrite. I mean, seriously. And what's interesting is as you look at, with the exception of number 3 and number 4, no, I take it back. No, they leapfrog back and forth in price point. So the 159 then goes to 109, then to 299, then to 229, then 399. So what's neat about this is it's telling you is basically anywhere from $100 to $400. Shut up and take my money. Now, there is a little bit of clarification I want to do here, and I do not know if so. This is where kind of some depth of field knowledge comes in. And I wonder if my buddy Mike Rand is hanging out over on YouTube. Hey, who's over there on YouTube right now? Mike Rand. Hey, what's going on, G-Man? How are you, man? Michael Hodge, the man. Yeah, I'm a sucker for Seafoam Green. Man who plays for 1 million people every week, and I'm not kidding. Chris, how you doing? Let's see. I still want one of those shirts. Chris, I got another request. We're making shirts. Everybody, we're making shirts. Sorry, I didn't mean to go into the merch moment. Motu, awesome. Michael, do me a favor. Make some notes here about what's kind of on your list of interfacey stuff, because Michael is, first of all, a brilliant producer, guitar player. He plays at Joel Osteen's church and plays at the biggest venues everywhere. Brilliant guitar player, toured with Shaka Khan, owned every piece of gear imaginable. Amazing guy, brilliant player, and a great friend. And he's here, even better. Who could top that? Okay, good. I've got some more questions here. So I'm going to come back to this. In any case, wait a second. Hold on a second. Doppler, really? Hold on just one second. I have this. No, this is what happens when you copy scenes. All right, that's going to go away in just a second. What's going on, Sean? How are you? All right, so Doppler is back making sense here, and we're back over on USB audio interfaces. Okay, so as we scroll down here, the reason I went over to YouTube was to see if my buddy Mike Rand was over there. I actually am tracking with myself tonight. All right, what I'm looking at right here, there's certain things that I'm wanting to know, and the most important thing that I'm looking for is there a SPDIF connection? And what that basically is a, also known as light pipe. Am I confusing my SPDIF and my light pipe? I just might be. So that is to say, on the back of said unit, there it is. Yeah, my bad. I am. SPDIF is the I believe it's basically looks like, but you can't use your regular little RCA cables. The optical unit is the one that's also known as ADAT. My bad. Self-correcting. How about that? So the optical input on the back of this is what makes this one the bad boy. And for $399, take my money. All right, so let me tell you why that's so important. In my new video studio upstairs, which is one of the videos we'll be making sooner than later, I have a Focusrite Octapre Mark II dynamic. Now, they've now come out with the Mark III, but basically you can connect that via that light pipe connection and basically / optical digital connection. So what it does, it means you have an additional 8 channels in case you want to go to your rehearsal space and record drums. If you want to record 20 guitar cabinets, well, you can't do that with 8 channels, but you can get started with that. And so the ability to have that expandability, my guess is the $229 one does not have that, but let's take a quick look. And again, this is kind of, yeah, it does not. So this is what makes the online shopping experience better, in my opinion, than the in-store experience. Because first of all, am I going to beat up on Guitar Center? Sure, why not? So if one were to go into your average Guitar Center, if you could go into an average Guitar Center, and honestly, it's going to be good for the industry if they're still around when all this pandemic business is done, and hopefully they are in the process of getting this whole vaccine thing awesome. The deal is you go in and quite often the poor person behind the counter doesn't have a clue. They're just a musician that just needs to pay their bills. So I have some understanding around all of that. But they usually don't know all that much about the gear unless they really care to know about the gear. The point being is you're going to get an experience that will be at various points of the Guitar Center expectation spectrum. So the thing is, they may not have all the different models in. The guy behind the counter is not going to necessarily know. He may not necessarily know the difference between Spiff and light pipe slash optical, because either do I, apparently. But the point being is that expandability means that your kind of desktop-y guy. And did I check the $299 one? Because I might have just jumped to the $229. Let me just double check that real quick. But I'm pretty sure I've checked this before. And yeah, the $299 one does not have that as well. So this is where you kind of go, okay, at what point do I just go, I'm going to spend $100? Do I buy the cheapest one? Do I want some really cute one? Am I just going to stream and maybe have like one input for my guitar and one input for my voice? If so, then, kind of like you're done. Again, now taking a look down here, I realize it's going to be like ant size. But basically that $109 little dealio has got 5 stars and 43 reviews. Like, again, shut up and take my money. That's just basically people who love it. All right, now that said, the 18i8, which again has to do with the inputs and the outputs, is in speaking Focusrite, as I recall. This is not a Focusrite advertisement, but it might as well be. It's 18 inputs and 8 outputs, so you can route it with lots of different options. We will not digress into that thing. But again, 5 stars and 8 reviews. Like that really means people love it. Okay, as we scroll down here, there's a bunch of stuff. I've got the little iRig here that I can't wait to plug in because all the streaming stuff has got a lot of attention in my world. I'm going to be making a ton of video content about streaming. So in any case, the PreSonus folks just released this bundle. That's, again, if you take a look over here, there's a Focusrite bundle. The PreSonus folks just released a bundle, and no, that's not it. But there is a PreSonus bundle right next to the interface that I'm pointing at. The point being is they've come out with a new 20-something or some anniversary edition that they basically sold out in one day. Yeah, rabid. The larger interfaces. So here's the deal. I love all of this stuff. There's a new Apogee interface. Here's the deal. If you're new to this interfacey world, my suggestion, and this again kind of gets to the whole buyers thing, because I have a feeling an increasing number of people in my streaming world are going to come over from the streaming side of things less and they're going to begin to make up a larger part of the viewing audience that I'm wanting to engage and support, just in the same way I've engaged and supported largely a bunch of the folks that I have the pleasure of knowing from the guitar camps. So as we kind of go on this journey together, in the same way that there are brands that we know on here, when you get on to my other favorite place to spend prolific amounts of time, yes, Amazon. So this is the other thing. Is this a nice segue there, Doppler? So there is a lot of noise about I gotta wait for my new Elgato 4K cam link. Well, this right here. Oh, stop that. There we go. Is a $13.99 basically HDMI capture card, and I basically you're watching me on one of those cards. Now, the interesting thing is, one of the things that I noticed today that was very interesting, and talking about this world for just a microsecond, then we're going to jump back over into the noisy stuff. I had an interesting thing happen. One of the great things about this application that I use, Ecamm Live, if any of you saw the little promo video that I did today, Ecamm Live allows me to go in and make a square video for social media, basically shoot it right into there, and then I just put it up on my phone, and I share it to Instagram, and then I push it from Instagram to Facebook. The interesting thing that happened, which I noticed, and again, we're going to talk a little tech stuff mixed in here, is that the vocal sync on the Instagram video was fine, but by the time it made it over to Facebook, the audio and the video were out of sync. So that kind of defies all the things I know about kind of like marrying the audio and video together. But generally speaking, I don't use the HDMI audio path that's available on your average camera where you're sending HDMI video along. I generally just kind of use, in this case, heading back over to the other world, I am a pretty dyed-in-the-wool Universal Apollo kind of guy. But that's just because there are a number of things about that particular universe that are particularly attractive to me, and I've been there for like a decade. And they've treated me really well, and they've hired me to do stuff, which means they put money in my pocket. So they've actually paid for, if you kind of look at all, at the end of the day, the gear that I own. So, you know, there is, and they're really great people, and they're in California. So in any case, I digress. So the point being is this, you know, if you're in the market for an interface, then you're kind of going, okay. Now, the reason I kind of brought up this compare and contrast business, gosh darn it, get to the right scene, Doppler. Urgh, you're fired. As we're looking at audio interfaces here, oh, was I really over there and on the flipping wrong? Okay. I'm just so excited about sharing this with you. What can I say? So this is the $13.99 Camlink Challenger. Camlink, if you can get it, is going to be $200 if you can get it. This is $13.99. And I've got two of these things, and you're actually watching me through. This is where I started to digress. So that's basically the camera that you're watching me through. I'm capturing it, bringing it in. I'm using my universal audio thing. And I've also got the coolest dealio. Chris Stark, if you're still on the line, this box, no, don't unplug anything in the process. There we go. This is the coolest box known to anybody that wants to stream and toggle between playing guitar and then having your vocal mic. I don't know why I actually stopped talking when I hit the mute button, but basically it's a foot switchable microphone switch. Oh, heck yeah. Chris Stark, baby, this has got your name on it. This is the Radial Hotshot 48 volt. It also has 48 volt fan of power. So basically it can power up your microphone there if it needs fan and power, which that shotgun up there does. So I can be playing along and not having it bleed into my microphone and foot switch that on and off. All of this stuff, by the way, Mark Cooper, I sent you a message earlier. Next week, by the time we actually do our streaming for musicians stream, I'll have that gear list together of a bunch of suggested stuff, and you can bet that puppy's going to be on there. All right. So in any case, heading back over to this little business over here, the interesting thing is, so there are a couple of things about the Amazon experience that are kind of parallel with Sweetwater. First of all, I generally don't buy anything unless it's Prime. I almost always look at the reviews, and if I don't see any reviews, that's usually the kiss of death. Or in this case, this person is just underselling this. But because it's Prime, if there's a problem, Amazon will take care of it. Okay, so what I'm going to do for a quick second is I'm going to poke in and take a look at what kind of comments have come in, such that I'm not just yapping deliriously here. So first of all, Mac Ross, Vince Janella, hello. Anthony Best and Steve Embry. Embry, I was thinking of you when I saw that Jeff Beck strat. I don't know if you were on there. Okay, Chris Benson, hey. Okay, first of all, hello, everybody. There you go, Chris Stark. That was for you, baby. Okay, so Word of the night, take my money. Sean Varley, how you doing? Okay, all right, all right. Ben, what's going on? Lucas, how are you? Two other people. Boy, that's like 4 people joining. Dana, how are you, my man? Good to see you. You sounded great on the Joe Satriani happy birthday video, by the way. All right, okay, so let's see. Love Strats on a very cool limited edition model, but would you say about a Fender tremolo overall issues with staying at tune? Okay, Eugene, I'm going to take that bait. So generally speaking, there's only one thing that Strats really like to do, so long as you're not seriously flogging, is the high E string likes to go out of tune. And in this moment, I think they like to go sharp. Is kind of what's happening as you got it floating. And please forgive me because it's been a minute since the white Strat that I was playing when I was furiously shredding on Sunday night, I think, that guitar just basically doesn't go out of tune. But I also don't use the whammy bar on it because the block, or I should say, the bridge is set back against the body. In any case, which is one way to keep your Strat in tune. Hey, but you got to love that rocking Beck-like tremolo where you can do all those crazy things. So the trick is that what I've discovered about Strats when the tremolo's floating is the high E string has a tendency to go sharp. You tune it, and it goes sharp again. So what do? The same amount that it's going sharp, you tune it flat. And usually within the first or at the maximum second time of that happening, the guitar pulls itself into tune, and then it kind of goes, cool, I'm good. And generally speaking, it likes to sit there. So then we're going to get into this other point about keeping a Strat in tune, because I'm going to go there. So there's a funny story that's tragic and funny simultaneously. I wonder if the shotgun just picked up me crinking my neck there. Probably did. Let me know in the comments there. So I was at a Jeff Beck concert, like, I don't know, more than 20 years ago. And I was in the front row, and Jeff basically ignored me the entire time. And I just, like, at about 10 minutes before the end of the show, I'm like, oh, I get it. He's totally spied me, and he's kind of walking this way, and I'm like, he's about to hand me his guitar. I kid you not. Like, this is not, and I wasn't like, this wasn't a dream. This wasn't some hallucination. And sure enough, he kind of walks across the stage like, want to play my guitar? I'm like, yeah, pulls me up on the stage. And the thing about Jeff Beck is that he doesn't really tune. So he hands me his guitar, and it's People Get Ready, which is in G. So you basically, play the E minor pentatonic / G major pentatonic. And I go to play the G at the 12th fret, and it's literally a half step out. And so the interesting thing is I'm kind of there, and I'm like, well, what I would do on my guitar is I would pull the tremolo up, and that would kind of release the string that had kind of caught at the nut. But the thing is that what I did not know, and I wasn't going to go, hey, Jeff, by the way, when you go to tune your guitar, do you pull the bar up or do you push it into the downward position? That was not the moment. And I was like, and I kind of got ready to dig in. I'm like, oh, the G string's a half step out of tune. That's an interesting thing. And Jeff kind of looked at me, and I looked at him. He was like, good. And he grabbed the guitar back. True story. But the point being is generally you want to choose a downward spot where you choose to basically, when you tune the guitar, you push the bar down, and then you do this thing where you gently kind of put your hands over the string right around the 12th fret, and you give the strings a gentle tug. And that kind of gets everything set. Now, the other thing is to pull it up. And what that does is it makes it such that anything above the nut there gets kind of pulled back. And that's generally what my guess is what Beck would do. Now, the downside, so to speak, of having pulled up there is when you do a bend, if the bar likes to sit at 2 spots, like what will happen with a locking fine tuning tremolo when the knife edge starts to get worn, as it develops a down and an up spot. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go to one of your locking fine tuning guitars that's over, 2 years old, and hit an E chord, depress the bar, hit that E chord again, pull the bar up, hit the E chord again, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay, so the point being is you then kind of go, well, is it going to be the down spot or the up spot? They both have their advantages. On a locking fine tuning tremolo, I always go with the down spot. On the Strats, I've kind of leaned towards the down spot as of late, but I used to be an up spot kind of guy. All right, there we go. Carlos, Beck and Santana, that's right, my man. Awesome. Kenny Zimmerman, how are you, my man? We need to connect. Awesome. Uh, Thanks, Carlos. Love you, bro. Eugene, with great pleasure. Great question. Great question. Hello, Tom. All right, let me head over to the tube of you. Come on. Well, I've got the right mouse. Hang on. Let's see if there's any interesting questions here. Okay. Oh, hello, Bent. Okay. Good to see you, Mr. Bent Tom. Sean, what's happening? I'm here, but I am none of that. Hey, Doppler. Federico. ¿Cómo está, mi amigo? ¿Qué pasó? We got to connect, my man. Sean, hello. Bent, light pipe is digital optical audio. Thank you, Bent. I got that all bent out of shape. There you go, Mike Rand. You're the guy. Focusrite Claret 2 Pre is awesome. They absolutely. Sweetwater gives you candy. Yum. They sure do. All right. I'm not going to repeat that, Michael. Bad behavior. All right. So, okay. So, good. All right. So, we seem to be cruising on. Look at all the people on YouTube tonight. Thank you so much, first of all, everybody, for hanging out. This is great. In case you didn't know, I love talking about gear. All right. So, first of all, bring more questions, especially like, types of gear and whatnot. So, here's the thing. One of the things, I'm a mad studying freak. I finally admitted to Melissa, that is to say Mrs. Doppler, I spend probably more time studying than I actually do kind of the doing of the doing, which is a little bit of a problem. So the good news is that, kind of after a little bit of self-realization and self-help, and the fact that I've kind of opened the floodgates with my manufacturer friends, there's about to be a flurry of activity here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to share kind of my new thing, because part of what I want to do with everybody here, and part of what next week is about with this whole kind of like streaming for musicians, is kind of go, if I share the things that I'm learning, it means that I'm not just kind of holding on to that stuff like an idiot. Shane, what's going on? Chuck, what's going on? And it also means that the time that I spend investing and studying things is hopefully benefiting others. Because the frightening thing is that, as you go to look at USB interfaces on YouTube, it's just like, it's flipping daunting. And if you don't know about kind of the nuances of buying an interface, what you need, what you don't need, what this whole 48 business is. And most of the guitar players are hip to this stuff, especially the people I know from the guitar camps. But there's always the stuff that we know a lot about because we've done it a bunch, and then there's everything else. And so I'm going to talk briefly about brands, and I'm going to talk about this unfortunately lame experience I had with Amazon, which most of the time is really cool. I'm an Amazon Prime member, and so what I'm doing is ramping up my whole vibe here. The streaming thing, I have... what I tried not to do is actually start using stuff before I'm actually able to master it. And this is literally, you program it, it's one button scene changes instead of what you see me doing with the mouse tonight and then staying on the wrong scene like an idiot. But the other thing is what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to ingest technology at an appropriate rate. And, kind of one of the things you're going to see me getting better at is working with scenes and kind of doing things that make it a little bit more interesting. So when we actually talk about collecting gear or talk about selling gear, I can pull stuff up and we have the opportunity to kind of talk about the nuances of all of that. And so the ability to work with scenes is one of the things that, there are other programs that are out there that do that. But for those of us that are music teachers, the ability to work within Zoom is an important part of what I do. And it's probably an important part of what a number of you do as well. So the ability to use the virtual webcam inside Ecamm Live is a big part of what I do. So getting back to the kind of production, I shoot videos, that sort of thing. I decided in version, I don't know, whatever it is, 3.0, 4.0 of Doppler Video, I want to have an electronic, a motorized slider. So I went out and, of course, I started off, and this is the interesting thing, so bear with me, there's a moral to the story. What do I know about slider brands? I should say, what did I know about slider brands? And so, the interesting thing is that as I've been studying all these different things, there are various different pieces of technology. Let's see if I can do this. Here we go. Come on, baby. And brands that I'm very familiar with. Like those, oh, look at all those lovely cables there. So that right there is basically the Wacom. And so that is a couple of weeks ago, I talked about that I was not able to use one of my old 7D Mark IIs, which was when we kind of, my old buddy Sam and I were doing all these orange videos. I ended up buying one, ended up getting a second one. Well, they are working now again via USB-C micro into USB-C A into one of those cheap HDMI capture cards. And we'll be coming back to the Wacom in a little bit, but as we talk about collecting pedals and some of that stuff. So in any case, I named the cams because it's kind of fun. In any case, the ability to integrate those different things into what I'm doing here is important. And so that kind of that moving shot, so it actually looks like there's a camera person, even though most of the time when it's really this whole stupidly obvious shot, you know it's not. Actually, let me imitate it. It's kind of like, it's just like it when it's not kind of like doing this thing, you know it's fake. But part of what I wanted to do is kind of get that motion thing into it, because I've been rewatching some of what I did, and I encourage you guys, and honestly, you know, to be quite honest, if I were to be totally frank and say that so you can maybe feel better about it, I don't always like to rewatch stuff that I've done because sometimes, you know, it's a little cringeworthy. And, you know, one of the things I've noticed about shooting video in this room is that I love the set that I've created, but sometimes I'm so engulfed in just playing that it feels very still. So I was like, I've got to solve this problem. So long story short, or short story long, I decide I'm going to buy a slider. I know nothing about slider brands. So I have not as of yet. Well, okay, so B&H is the other place that I spend too much money. So I'll go on to B&H and I'll toggle back and forth between B&H and Amazon, looking at the reviews, see who's got a better price, and all of these different things. And so I kind of start off with the cheap company, and then I kind of, you know, I end up basically just by the time all the shipping's said and done at about the $400 price point, which is really kind of stupid. You know, I could probably, I don't know, I can attach it to like what do they call those little vacuum cleaners, and you know, put that up on a shelf, and you know, hopefully the camera doesn't go falling off the edge or something, but put, you know, edges on the end of that and just have it bounce back and forth and have it on autofocus. I'd probably have something less expensive so long as the camera doesn't go flying off. I digress. So I knew nothing about the brands, and so then I, you know, kind of start doing some research. I go over onto B&H, and I ended up with a company called GVM, who I think I'm going to really love the experience of their product. I bought a 48-inch thing, which is, well, it's bigger than that, but the screen's not. But the point being is that I started researching brands, and I was not familiar with GVM, and this is kind of the moral of the story, and I'm going to wrap it up, and then we're going to move back to other gear talk. Is that there are brands that I know nothing about in certain sectors. I know nothing about sliders. I mean, you know, honestly, most of the people who are in the slider market actually are, some of them, GVM also makes lights, and everybody is making these knockoffs of the Aperture lights. I'm very curious. Michael Hodge, I know you were like myself, kind of the Aperture lights, which are, by the way, just in case you haven't heard that brand, if you want to have the platinum standard of video lights, it's Aperture. It's just like all the people who have enough money to spend way too much money on lights, that's what they use, because they're phenomenal. But you don't have to have that, and so that's what I'm telling myself. But GVM also makes some Aperture knockoffs. So, all right. How many people have a Wacom? Gotta have the Wacom. And you know, here's the thing: is you're also going to see. No, I'm not going to show the Jam Cam. Oh, I will. Come on. So it's going to look like crap because the green screen is. The floor's not that bad. There's the Jam Cam. So what's neat about this particular shot is that this is where I get the kind of like in the moment, kind of like rocking out. And the other thing about this particular shot, which I'm just going to let you inside on the plot, is there's my monitor right in front of me, so I can actually be watching what I'm doing as I'm on the Jam Cam. In any case, the problem with the Jam Cam, and you saw the green screen come up, I did not have the virtual background on, but the green screen that's happening there, you can see my Strat on the floor there and various other things that I shouldn't have in the frame. The Jam Cam, again, pulls people in, but because the green screen stops kind of there, it's a little bit of a problem. So in any case, so the GVM, I order it. I go to buy it. I It's either available in September, which is about way too late. I need it now. So I see that Prime can sell it and get it to me in 2 days, 3 days ago. I do not have my GVM. And so, and they just kind of, what I discovered, and this is the end of the story, is that every so often Amazon will say that they're fulfilling the order, but they're not. And so I ended up buying the GVM slider from GVM on eBay. And you basically, it's kind of like if you go to the Dunlop website and you buy something there, it's basically paying list price. So it's like $359 plus tax. And it's free shipping because I bought it on eBay. But the point being is that where is GVM located? Philadelphia. Where is my UPS stuck at? Philadelphia. That is to say, the tracking from my Amazon thing. So I'm like, obviously, there's some point of connection between Amazon and GVM that broke down. And I'm not going to blame the GVM folks because I think it was Amazon. They just screwed it up. So every so often, I've had this happen a couple of times. Prime will let you down. But they'll always give you your money back. And if you make a little bit of noise, usually they'll give you some little perk. So the point being is that as you're kind of exploring this stuff, spend some time doing it. We're going to put together this kind of vetted list, just kind of like, you know, what I do with Sweetwater is I kind of go in and I poke around and kind of go, hey, what do we need here? So, all right, let's continue on here and let's see what other questions we might have. Okay. Okay, good. All right. Good. All right. Michael, do I like the Ibanez ZR trims? That is so funny. I never would have expected you to ask that. I love the ZR trims, actually. The funny thing is that kind of my main ZR equipped S470 has been at Gary Brower's in need of a new bar because I broke the Remy bar on it. But I love that tremolo because it feels kind of halfway between a Floyd and a Bigsby. More like a Floyd than a Bigsby, but it's great. Andy Guitar, what's the best way to keep a pedal board as well as an amp quiet? I already looked at some Furman devices. Unsure which Furman does what and which, if at all, is right for me. Okay. Do me a favor, Andy Guitar. Can you do me this? Is in the comments there? Does it make noise when the volume's up? Is it when the volume's down? Is it with the pedal board with a distortion pedal on? Is it with the pedal board with the distortion pedal on, your volume off? That is to say, which type of noise are we getting? Are we getting the are we getting the are we getting the right? Those are a couple of different types of sounds, and they're associated with different things. That's a great question, and I look forward to answering that in great specificity. Okay, heading back to the Book of Face. All righty here. So let's see. Hello, Doug DeJong. How are you, my man? Okay. All right. The Thunder from Down Under. All right. So, Tom Cutts, that's exactly it. You want the shot to move while you don't. The other thing is that I've been watching, you know, there is kind of first of all, the Archetype Plini, that plug-in company, those guys. I want to say Adrenaline, but it's something like that, and I'm just, the word is lost at the moment. But in any case, those guys, all those videos are super kind of modern, and the players are really modern. And if you want to look and attempt to sound and be slightly modern, you got to kind of begin to kind of go, okay, well, what are they doing? And so, you know, most of that stuff is shot where there's actually a camera person kind of doing this kind of dealio. But this, with the shallow depth of field, and the great thing about said DSLR, and this is not really a great shot making the most of this, But you know, the great thing about in fact, I did not have a chance to adjust the way the light is set for this. But the thing about, oh, well, you know what? I can do this in post. Hang on just one second. This is one of the things that I love about Ecamm Live. Do I have that open? I do not have that open, so I'm not going to waste your time doing it. We'll do that next week. But basically, no. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you in real time how incredibly groovy this is. So look at flipping that. Warm up the shot. I'm not going to, there we go. I'm going to bump up the saturation and the gamma. There we go. Look at that. All right. I don't know about you, but that like was instantly way cooler. That's the power of Ecamm Live. And for me, I'm just kind of like, really? That is kind of groovy. All right. So getting back to our previous conversation. Oh, that's great. Got a Tom got a thank you, Neural DSP. Thank you, Doug DeJong. Appreciate it. And let me get off that. No, Doppler, pick the right camera. Doppler, come back. Any kind of fool could see the camera was wrong. Boy, cool. Straight tracks, round tracks, etc. But all for phone cams. No, I've seen some of that stuff, and you know the other thing, as long as we're on the subject of cameras, you know, this shoots great. Oh, that's totally hilarious. I got a reflection of something of the green screen somewhere and it disappeared. But your iPhone will shoot 4K. As a matter of fact, let's take. Oh, I got a messenger message. Even better. I'll grab that in just a sec. But basically, in case you didn't know this, if you go into your iPhone, and I don't speak Android these days, and you go into your settings and then you select camera, you basically have a bunch of settings for video. And record video, I've got it set at 4K at 30 frames per second. And the other option that you would probably want to go with is 1080p HD at 4 frames per second. Do not go for the high efficiency because when last I heard, that codec does not like to play friendly in case you want to bring your stuff into Premiere and fiddle with it that way, which is, again, one of the great things about Ecamm Live is like my little social media videos. I'm creating them in Ecamm Live, and you know the ability to not have to drag something into Premiere when I don't need to, big on my list. Okay, awesome. Look at all those hearts, you guys. We got a love fest going on in there. All right, so let's see. I'm on the right camera. Good. And by the way, the other thing that I've got, although I haven't been making very good use of it, is a confidence monitor. In fact, at the point that I actually do my rundown of this very stuff here, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screens and 3 computers. So like the ability to see things, if I pay attention to the right thing, is actually cool. All right, so nothing back. Yeah, I just saw that. That sucks. What sucked? Must be something. All right. So heading back over here. Hello, Patrick Phelps. Okay, so who's got some gear questions? If not, I'm going to launch into my tips on selling gear. So let me. All right. So let me make sure I'm in Ecamm, which I should be. Okay. So where is this? All right. Here we go. And that right there. Why? Oh, I'm on the wrong. Okay, got it. Oh, I see what I've done. Okay, I've got that as an overlay. Oh, how did I manage to do that? Oh, I know what I've done. Okay, you can ignore me. I have figured myself out here. Okay, got it. What you were looking at was a YouTube not streaming, but the comments are still coming through. All right, so here's the other thing about one of the other little hacks as you start working with streaming stuff. Google loves to grab RAM, and this new computer has got 80 some odd gigs of RAM. I kind of went over the top. And when the Ecamm Live guys are going to be on here next week, they're going to talk a little bit about RAM usage and whatnot. RAM isn't necessarily going to make your stream go better unless you, like me, like to open up different windows and have different applications going. That's when you're going to need your RAM, but having more RAM than you need is always a good thing. New comments. Oh, 7 screens and everything is on. Yeah, Tom. Hey, what's going on, Tom? I owe you an email or a message. Stephen Pearson, cabs. Okay. Yes, 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 yes. I'm going to hit your cabs question, and then I'm going to come back to this message that I got in Messenger. I'm kind of getting messaged in multiple locations. Okay, first of all, Stephen Pearson, why don't you do me this favor and tell me specifically what your question is? But I will dish on cabs in a serious way. And then what we're going to get to is selling gear, and then we're going to get to collecting gear. First and foremost, I have I've got 10 412 cabs that I can see, an 11th, 12th, 13. There's 13 412 cabs. No, 14, 15, 16. There's 16 412 cabs in the house here. So one could argue that I have a cabinet obsession. And you might be accurately correct there. However, there is a lot to love about cabinets. And they're all different. And so the nuances in cabinet world are as follows. Until I started playing at, when Joe would invite me to jam at the G4 Experience with the big boys, I've always been a fan of a 412, a 1960B Marshall straight cabinet. My main amp that I use in those settings is a Marshall JVM 410. Great head, works great, lots of cool features. Clean tone, but the ability to go between basically the crunch channel and the lead channel, which are basically voiced the same, so you don't have this kind of like, oh, the rhythm tone and the lead tone are really night and day. And I'm not saying, not to have a great clean tone and then great lead or crunch tone, but having a rhythm tone that is kind of metally, and then you can go to your lead tone where they kind of make sense together, is often a thing that you don't get with a 3-channel amp. You kind of have clean, and then you got in between, and then you got your solo tone, and the in between and the solo tone don't always make sense in that particular type of setting. So what ended up happening, though, those stages at those events are usually pretty shallow. And so I very quickly discovered, and I think it was purely by accident that I brought one or two 1960B cabinets with me, or A's rather, where the top is slanted back. But after the first time of doing so, I was like, oh, okay. Because what it is on a shallow stage, having that top half of the cabinet pointing back at you is a big, big deal if 412 cabs are actually your thing. Now, that said, I also have a large number of combos. Generally speaking, I use amps that are designed to be combos as combos. So I've got AC30, 212. Now, I actually own a head because, I don't know, I kind of like, I bought this hand-wired one, and I decided I wanted to have a second matching one, and I couldn't find one that was in the cabinet that was at a price that I wanted to pay. So I just kind of finally just bought the head, and I can't actually say that I've actually used it since I bought it. In any case, I might have, but the idea is I would use the AC30 head with a 212 cabinet that I put together. That's an open back. Ben Fargen's brother makes, what is that brand? It's over there, and basically I've got a mixture of a green back and a blue, kind of a classic, kind of voxy kind of sound. And so the idea is the AC30 would go into that, and then an orange 8030 goes into an orange 212 cabinet that I think has got the vintage 30s in it. And that two combinations of amps, and I might have plugged the pair of them together, but that's why I bought that other head. So I could use it. I could use the AC30 head in that 212 cabinet and swap out the greenback for another blue and have two AC30s that are basically the same hand-wired AC30. One where it's a combo, and the other where it's the head and the cabinet. And they would be close, but they would not be identical, even with the two Alnico Blues in there. But the idea of being able to mix and match stuff, which getting into cabinet geekdom, I'm happy to do that all day long. So the idea of finding the right cabinet voicing for the amplifier you're using. Again, AC30. Classically, I'm going to want to use it in a self-contained 212 combo. And there's something about, I think, the amp kind of rumbling around, impacting the tubes and kind of massaging them around certain frequencies. I actually think there's stuff that happens, and that's kind of why I think a combo is kind of a groovy experience. And quite often, a combo compared to a 412 cabinet, most 412 cabinets are not open back. Now, I've also got a pair of the old school boogie cabinets, which are I think the box is straight, but the top half is leaned back a little bit. There's a couple of different versions of them. Unfortunately, the pair that I've got are all the I think the boogie speakers or the Eminence boogies. But the ones that I really wanted most were the combination of basically Mesa Boogie has a custom vintage 30 that basically is made for them, and that's on the top. And then on the bottom, they've got the EVM 12Ls, which those are not the ones that I've got. But what was neat about those is that on the ones that were pointing back up at you, you're hearing the breakup of the Celestians. And then the EVMs, which are a very tight speaker, those are just destroying people in the front row, which is kind of cool. All right, so that is my take on cabinets. Old school boogie cabs, they're amazing. They only weigh 45 tons. You're totally right, Tom. Tone Candy, what's going on, dude? Awesome. Vintage 30s are great speakers. What's going on, Jim Giannini? How are you, man? Okay, Steve Pearson, that's me. I build 212 ported with details unlike anyone else has heard. Sounds very interesting. Always interested in that. Neil Crouch, how are you? Pleasure. Shameless plug. Check out Dr. Jekyll Guitar Works on Facebook. I like shameless plugs. Mac Ross, what's going on, my man? So Mac is another one of the Endeavorous technology guys. So Mac is in Tulsa, and I think it's the Tulsa Guitar Academy, if I've got it correct. But basically, because you don't really want to meet in a room with a bunch of contagious kids and vice versa, he's basically taken his whole school online, and he's doing really well with that. And so we have gotten to know one another well, I should say, and he has his whole apparatus that he's put together. So it's very cool. Very, 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 very cool. All right. Let's see if anybody has appeared with any questions. G-Man, boy, you're just hitting me. So the funny thing is, Michael, you're hitting me with all the old school stuff. So yeah, Scumbag, Jim Seval is a buddy of mine. Actually, Jim used to let me, I'm toggling back and forth between Facebook and YouTube looking at the comments because I have not mastered the piece of Ecamm Live that has that merge in from the Restream IO application, which I will by next week. In any case, the Scumbag speakers are awesome. So there's a guy named Yella Welligen who makes, amongst other things, Dumble clones. And so Yella flew out here to have me do some demo work and brought some heads and left one here for a long time. And so we had Jim send up some speakers, including a lovely old Marshall cabinet. And his speakers are phenomenal. And Jim is awesome as well. So Jim used to let me, before Melissa and I, gosh, really? No. It was after Melissa. But if I needed a place to stay, he let me stay in his garage filled with like 20 vintage 412 cabinets. Great guy. Lovely guy. Really a very special guy. Absolutely lovely. All right. A low hum. Okay. Noise present even without a guitar plugged in, so the pedal bar isn't causing noise. All the jacks in the amp are fine, and all the cables are of high quality. Okay. And Andy Guitar. All right. So Andy asked this question about noise. First of all, I had somebody on one of the shows that was not a fan of this piece of gear that I'm about to suggest. I'm not going to mention them, but I am going to suggest a piece of gear. It's called the Hum X. And I have had excellent luck with the Hum X. And basically, one of the things is when you start running two amps together, you get a ground loop. And so your low is quite probably some sort of a ground loop. First of all, if you're plugging your pedal board, listen up, folks. If you're plugging your pedal board in on one outlet and you're plugging your amp in on another outlet, don't. Because sometimes they're on different feeds, I don't know, runs, whatever. The other thing is I saw a very interesting thing on YouTube about distributing power from the further you get away from the source of the power in your house, the lower apparently the voltage goes. at least I think I've got it right, that it's the voltage. And they were literally measuring each consecutive outlet as it kept going down. Now, the thing about that is there's what they call the brown box, which is this great device that I have yet to try, but I'm very excited to try. So basically, I think the moral of the story is, and I may get it slightly right, but bear with me, is that basically the power we get out of the wall is 120 volts. The old school amps were designed to run at 117. So the brown box brings them down to 117. It's not like a Variac where it's doing something different, which I can't really explain other than it's cool. And so the idea is that the running these amps that were designed to be run at 117 volts at 120 does not allow them to operate at their optimal voltage. So the thing is that similarly, there are two different runs as I discovered here in this room. And if I plug stuff in, one thing into one outlet and the other into the other, then I would also get a hum. And so that can also cause a nice little shock. By the way, another little gig tip when you get out to gigs with your guitar, basically without touching strings, take the guitar and touch it up by the vocal mic. And if you see a little spark arc across the top, you either want to reverse the polarity on the back of your amp or have them do that on the PA or whatever. But like that means you're about to get one of those nasty sparks on the lip. I learned that. It only took about once of getting shocked on them, so I'm like, I'll let's see what happens. And you could literally see the arc of the spark go. You're like, that would have been me. So basically, yeah, that means that little spark's jumping because if you're holding the strings, it's basically rounding out through there. And I don't know if and sometimes no, I guess it's not grounding the polarity. It's reversing. I don't know. I'll ask my buddy who knows more about amp stuff about why flip. It used to happen with my JC120, and I would go back and flip the power switch. It was once before the little push button thing into the opposite position, and that problem would stop. Okay. Yeah. So. And again, Andy Guitar. The other thing is that implicit in my answer that I didn't mention is pull everything out of the signal chain and go straight into the amp. Just make sure it's not having anything to do with the amp. If you can, plug in the pedal board without anything plugged into the wall. If you can kind of get unless you're using some sort of switcher where you need power, and then kind of see if there's some little gremlin happening in your pedal board, and then in turn even just kind of plug in a cable going into your amp and just have a cable plug going into your pedal board. Now this is going to sound strange, even if it's not actually driving signal because it's not plugged in, and then turn the volume off, obviously, stand by your amp, and then plug in the power if you need to for the pedal board, and see what happens then. The other thing that happens is I used to have a Boss CE2, little Boss Chorus, and if you use the AC adapter on it, this would have been in like the early 80s. But that thing always did the when you turned it on. So some pedals, and that's the other thing is that you might try just like one pedal at a time, see if one of the pedals is kind of your culprit, and or the power supply for that pedal. And this is the other thing about Voodoo Lab has what they call toroidal power isolation, toroidal transformers that allow each of the power outlets on the power supply to be isolated from one another. We're going to have the good folks from Mission Engineering on a show that we're going to do called Groovy Gadgets, where it's about all this crazy stuff that again, like the iRig 2. It's a groovy little gadget, and just cool things that enable you to do cool things. But they've got now power supplies. This is Mission. That you can power with one of those rechargeable batteries that you would use for your phone. I mean, it's like that's a groovy gadget. And then Troy Grady, John Zacco last week mentioned Troy Grady, and I was over on his website. He's got this thing called the Magnet. And ironically, I think I saw a video that had been done with Michelangelo, where basically it's a mount on the guitar neck that your phone can sit on. So it's literally pointing down the strings towards the bridge or towards the headstock. So you get this bird's eye view of that. I realize it's probably going to create a little tension on the neck there, but I thought that's a really cool device. So I reached out to him. So we'll see if he wants to come on. Okay. Tone preserver is another option for lowering your voltage. Thank you, Michael Hodge. Look at you, you genius. And Michael has played in many situations in many places. All right. Arlen Salte. Hello, Arlen. Good to see you, my man. We've got the Canadian factor here. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Wayne Findlay. Come on, rock dogs. So Wayne and I toured together, although I was in the support act, but Wayne was the genius keyboardist guitar player in the Michael Schenker group. So Wayne and I are dear, dear, dear friends. Thank you for joining us. Wayne would know all about, right. The noise, Pops. There, every so often you'll get into a venue that just like I don't know if Pops is even still there. What's up, Wayne? Wayne, what about the power in Pops? You remember that? Of course you remember that. So basically it's noisy, hummy, buzzy, dirty, power, everything that doesn't buzz, buzzes. And so, you want to go to kind of like a low dynamic thing, and all yours, and the guitar's going, it's just the worst. It was an awesome tour. Thank you, Wayne. So much fun. Nothing like being on the road with people you love. Yeah, Pops. Holy cow. Yes. All right, hang on. So let me just not buzz. There we go. No, it was terrible. Absolutely terrible. But we hung out with the Whitesnake guys. In the RV outside at Pop. So that was cool. That was awesome. All right. So, no, I'm not going to tell the story about... Well, okay, no, I will tell the story. So as we're heading back from Pops, which is basically in East St. Louis, there's a freeway closure. And so, and we're in a van. Yep, Wayne. So, and it's Melissa and I and the driver that we hired for the tour. And there's a freeway closure. I don't know, East St. Louis, so we're on GPS. And if you've ever had the feeling of driving along in the middle of the night, you kind of go, I don't think we're in a neighborhood that we're supposed to be in. And it was just one of those things. I kind of asked somebody the next day, and they were like, you were where? But it was just one of those things. We're riding around with a bunch of guitars and amplifiers, and it was an interesting thing. So I can say that there were many interesting facets about the trip to East St. Louis. One of the best being, of course, Wayne Findlay. All right, let's see here. Chris Stark. Yes, the Mesa Recto 412 is a back injury in the making, but man, those V30s in solid birch, yummy. Okay, so here's the thing. So I actually have, behind the curtain there, I've got a pair of the tall Recto as opposed to the... and correct me if I'm Chris, are you using the talls or the regular? Are you using the standard? So this is one of the interesting things. The Mesa Boogie vintage 30s are custom made for them. They're actually, I think a vintage 30 is normally rated, and I keep getting this wrong, but I think, ironically, the name vintage 30, they're not rated at 30 watts. They're rated, I think it's 65 or something like that, or 60 watts. So they actually, I think they come in at 60 watts or something like that. So it's 240, but the Boogie one comes in at 280 or something because they're a higher rated speaker. Because, and again, if you think about the average person that plugs into a Boogie, they're like, turn up all the way. I think I can hear Chris all the way over there from Hawaii. So, but the differences in cabinet. I've got a tall Marshall cabinet. They call that the vintage tall. And it's got there, I think, the 25 watt reissue greenbacks. And the interesting thing is that one of the people that I invited to be on next week's streaming show who was not able to do that is a guy by the name of John Luini. And John, in case you don't know, is Joe Satriani's streaming and social media genius. But John will be coming onto the show at some point, which is great. It was actually really cool. The week that Joe was on, John called me. He sent me a text and was like, hey, is there anything I can do to help? Or just, And so he just kind of got on the phone with me and offered some advice, which is really lovely. So we're going to be having him on the show, and it will be great, but it's not going to be next week. But, he's has a wealth of information. But we did, with my old thing that I did called Gear Tunes, our launch event was this thing called the Ultimate Speaker Demo. And we were at 25th Street recording in Oakland, and Celestion and Electro Voice and Eminence sent like a mountain of speakers, and Orange sent like 16 cabinets. So we had all these different cabinets loaded with different speakers, and there were like 8 different rigs. And so I kind of did these stylized rigs with different guitars and different playing and kind of backing tracks so you could hear the difference between the different speakers. I've got to publish those files, but the 280 watt version. Thank you, Chris Stark. 280 watt version. 7 times 4 is 280. So I think the traditional ones are 65. So 240, 260 as opposed to the 280. Sorry, I'm having a conversation with the chat there. So the traditional Celestion Vintage 30 is 65 watts rating. The Mesa Boogie ones are 70 watts rating. I don't think all of them, but the majority are, and they're custom made for Mesa Boogie. And in addition to being rated at slightly higher wattage, they sound a little bit different, and they are great sounding cabinets. Absolutely amazing sounding cabinets. Yes. There we go. Stephen Pearson, thank you very much. 65. Thank you. There we go. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So, Chevy Chase vacation moment. It was a moment, Michael. Let me tell you. Okay, if the Hum X does the trick, I thought a Furman would be the way to go. Many thanks, by the way. With great pleasure. Here's the other thing. The Hum X is one of the things that it does. It also eliminates some of the noise coming up out of power. You know, if you've ever, and this is true for anybody. My wife very kindly gave me this little Marshall refrigerator, which is the greatest, coolest looking thing that's now basically a table. But if you've ever lived, especially, you know, if you lived in an apartment and you're tracking all of a sudden you hear this little noise in the background, it's usually when the refrigerator kicks on and you're on the same circuit as the fridge and it starts pissing current down into your guitar signal. That's basically that thing that I'm talking about. And the Hum X does a really good job of filtering a bunch of that noise out. And, you know, but something like, right, there you go. Yeah, I've got the Furman power conditioner. Generally speaking, and again, not my area of expertise, but the reason I use the Furman is not to filter out noise, but is to watch out for surges. And so it basically keeps the, I'm running at 115 volts. So remember that thing I talked about where the further you get from the source, that the more the voltage drops. Well, so the Furman has a little LED. I don't have the rack cam up yet. My apologies. But the Furman has a little LED readout that tells you how many volts you're running at. Now it went up to 116. In any case, what it does is it conditions the power, and it basically, one, prevents it from spikes happening, such that your gear doesn't get blown up if there's kind of like what will happen with that is this, you know, I lived in an area where there was more lightning and thunder activity. What'll happen is you'll get a power surge, and that can potentially fry your amp. That's bad. So this will protect against surges, and also has those very cool little lights in case you got a rack, because everybody's seen that. Yeah. All right. So, good. Pissing down the channel. Dave Morrison, what's going on, my man? How are you? One of my favorite human beings in the entire world. Good to see you. There is not a speaker or cabinet, with the exception of the 412s, in here that is not on one of the isoacoustics. Shameless plug for Dave, but he's the inventor and genius behind the isoacoustic isolators, and they are awesome. Actually, the really cool thing, I meant to share it on my Facebook today and didn't. We did this little thing for Premier Guitar talking about his isolators, and this is in the gear department. What the heck just happened? Wow, that's really weird. Wow, just like Facebook decided to go back to the first 58 seconds of the stream. It was like, maybe it's because I'm running at 116 volts. All right, so the point being that being able to isolate your speakers from the rumbly, if I were to kind of, I'm moving a pedal around on the desk here. When you start moving some air with a cabinet, if it's not heavy enough, it starts to move around a little bit, and you get basically this interaction between that and the surface, which is why, if you stick your average studio monitor on top of a desk without some sort of isolation between it, you get this interaction just in the same way. If you take your guitar headstock and stick it up against the wall, start playing, the wall all of a sudden becomes this giant transducer. It makes all the sound. So that transference both sends signal down into the surface in which it's touching, but that surface in turn reflects that back out, and you get cancellation just in the same way. It basically, when you send the same signal back up, it basically starts to cancel itself out. The speaker kind of goes, "Oh, I don't have to do that anymore." I'm not very good at explaining it, but I do a much better job in the Premier Guitar thing, the Summer Splash, Gear Splash thing. So, which is really cool. Dave, you want to do me a favor? I'm going to let you shamelessly self-promote. Can you provide the link for that Premier Guitar thing in the feed here? That would be fabulous. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Error loading. What's going on here? Uh-oh, does that mean that Facebook's saying there's an error loading? No. What's going on here? I'm going to believe that the universe is perfect, and what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to hit refresh here on Facebook just to see if that is in fact all happy, and see if I get the little red light or something strange is going to happen. And invariably what's going to happen is the audio is probably going to want to open up again, because it always does that when you actually make it so you can see the chat. But, yep, then the audio opens up, but that's okay. I pulled it down, Melissa Doppler. Oh, that's weird. Okay, hold on. Huh, okay. Wow, that's really strange. It looks like Facebook just says error loading. All right, 6 people. I'm live. All right, good. All right, well, it looks like we're under control. All right. All streaming here. Thank you, Michael. Good. All right, get the voltage down to 90 and your stream will have that brown sound. That's right. The Variac, stream that baby down. Okay. Facebook error loading. Okay. Yeah, so everything is groovy over on YouTube. And I got, Chris, sorry that... Hello, Michael Austin. Sorry that Facebook, on behalf of everyone at Facebook, I apologize that they kicked you out. YouTube has been up and running. It was a Facebook moment. Thanks for coming back in, guys. Okay, so now we get a chance to talk about the great way to sell gear, because my guess is a number of you have some gear that you're not using. So I'm going to go over to here in Keynote, and I'm going to see if I've got, there we go. And let me get over to my Keynote presentation. Okay, great. So one of the things that, as we look at Doppler's Gear Garage, let's talk about gear. So I always kind of do this thing where I will shoot the piece of gear from multiple angles. And this allows people to kind of go, and I've got some kind of photo paper, roll of photo paper, not that you print on, but you kind of roll it out, that it's in my upstairs studio there. And so I try and make sure that there's no reflection as I'm doing this. It's just a little bit on the edges here, but generally speaking, you don't want people to think that, the print or that, whatever it is worn off. So basically, the ability to kind of see the piece of gear up close and personal, as well as on the inside there, is a huge way to make it a lot easier to sell your gear. And so the deal is that I've sold a bunch of gear in the midst of kind of all of this stuff going on. And everything that I've sold within the first 24 hours on Reverb. So I'll share a couple of things about that. Unfortunately, I took it upstairs because I'm getting ready to sell a couple more pieces of gear. But I've got a box that's basically my Sell It on Reverb kit. It's got air in a, whatever they call it, it's a little air in a, it's air, forced air, like you'd use to clean your keyboard, computer keyboard. And then I've also got some Dunlop cleaner, and then guitar cleaner, and then a polish cloth. And I also have a white glove. And the white glove is really cool. Is that if you're kind of going to shoot something and then there's kind of a little spot, you can potentially blow on that, and then use the white glove to just wipe a little spot, because you don't want to use a paper towel, because I've had a paper towel leave marks in a finish. They can scratch the finish. So hey, Dave Marquette, what's going on, man? I think you were the first person I ever went to 25th Street recording with. Great to see you, my man. So the white glove, what's great about oh, Mel, can you do me a favor?
Facebook's still down.
No, it's back. Somebody just joined. Facebook's back. So I have technical support in the room. But can you do me a favor on your way back up, and hopefully on your way back down? Can you grab me that in the upstairs studio? There's the little little tub that's got the forced air, and let me see this. Thank you. All right, exit.
Yes, you want the full step.
Yeah, that would be great. Hold on, exit.
Like this.
Yes, exactly. So what's going on?
I've closed it and reopened it.
No, I'm back up. Facebook's having some sort of issue. No, can you get me the tub from upstairs, please? It's in the upstairs studio. Awesome. Okay, I'm back. So in any case, so by cleaning stuff up, and if you take a look, let's go back over here for a quick sec, and if you take a look at this little presentation here, I cleaned that pedal up. That pedal's like 40 years old. It took some time, but the cleaning in between the knobs, and when I opened up the inside, I took my little air blower thing to it, and of course that kind of foam underneath the battery pack sprayed all the heck over the place, including in my face. But it's good for people to go, wow, that's really clean. And here's the thing: is most people want to know what they're buying. And you want to make it easy for them. And more importantly, I want to make it easy for me. And I've been amazed, even in this particular kind of slightly strange season, I'm basically, by cleaning stuff up, I'm always able to flip stuff up really quickly in 24 hours. And that's been a help. It's allowed me to fuel my gear buying habit. Okay, thanks to everybody that jumped back in. Sorry that, Steve Smythe, what's going on, dude? Another touring bro. Awesome. Great to see you. Steve Smythe and I did Shred Stock, and that was with Adrian Galish, so we kind of toured up and down the state of California, playing lots of guitar notes. Great to see you, my man. Ken Gillette, welcome aboard. So I understand that Facebook is being a little persnickety, so I apologize for that. It's not the stream. Everything has been good here in the world of YouTube, and I appreciate all the feedback there. There we go. Thank you very much, Melissa. Okay, so here is Doug's little bag of tricks. So what do they call this? Extreme Clean. Woohoo! So this, I will give everything a good dusting with that. There is said Dunlop 65 polish cloth, or the Dunlop polish cloth has been separated from this. And then another little polish cloth. I think this is the Musicians Institute polish cloth that was given away at one of the guitar camps. And then said white gloves. Now, again, seems kind of stupid, but at the same time, when you've got some stupid little spot there and you're like, because here's the thing is a spot can look like a blemish in the finish. And so, if there's a blemish in the finish, fine. But I don't want some little spot of dirt or, accidentally, dare I say it, sneezing on a guitar. Hello. By the way, just in case you want to be totally grossed out, those little dots on your computer screen, that happens when you sneeze. That's all I'm going to say about that. In any case, having a little kit of stuff that you can have ready, and by the way, I'm a mad labeling freak. I'm just like, what does it say? Photo shoot. So I literally, I keep stuff in here such that I'm always ready to be able to list stuff. And then in turn, what I do is I shoot it with my iPhone. And the camera in here is great. And then I just send it, and that's where these guys come from. And I do actually take the time to test stuff. So last Sunday, the piece of gear that I was showing you there, and the one that's behind me, even though it's not really behind me, is actually actually if you look at that though, it's like that's a really nice photo. You're like, hey, this thing is is good, and you can see stuff like if you take a look, there's the red. I always go to the wrong side, but there's that red tape there where you can see that at some point somebody either extended or did something to the battery run there, and it looks like it's the same cable color. So my guess is they somehow caught it in the side of the unit or something, and they clipped it. Or sometimes what will happen is with the cable, you'll gently shear a little bit of the rubber off of it and put tape on it. So, I always am very careful about saying anything that is wrong with the unit because I don't want to have it come back. And the other thing is I got burned by this jerk who basically said, "Oh, it didn't work," and I had it set up for return. I got it back, and my whole thing is one of the ways that when I list gear, is I always try, without grossly underselling everybody, I try and come in as the least expensive purchase, but just barely under everybody else, not cutting the bottom out of the or pulling the value of other people's gear down. It's just kind of like I look at this, and one of the things that I do is I offer free shipping. So what ended up happening is this jerk said, "Oh, it didn't work," and I was like, I'm a cool guy, so I'm like, all right, I'll pay the shipping back. And by the time I was done, $80 of shipping costs later, or something of what it was, the unit was fine. The guy was just a deadbeat. So on Reverb now, I list everything as is, and I say, I got burned by a deadbeat Reverb. I put it in a nice way. I got burned by a less than honest in a less than honest transaction with a purchaser. I forget the exact words, but I put it as nicely without calling him a deadbeat, because you don't have to go to deadbeat language, because you don't want people to think you're that guy. Oh, they were a deadbeat dude. And it's just like, just kind of like, I had a bad experience where I got burned by a buyer on Reverb. So now it's as is, but it's exactly as it is listed. And so people know exactly what they're getting, and everybody seems to love me. Seems to. Down again. Great. Thank you, Facebook. In any case, okay, who do I use for shipping? That is a great question. I think with eBay, with Reverb, it all goes out. I think they have a preferred relationship with UPS, so I'm fine with it. And what's nice about it, it's easy. You take it down there, you socially distance, and off it goes. And I've had really, 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 really good luck with them. Michael, you've got a. Yes, he was a loser, Norman. Honestly, I was pissed, because I was like, because I actually believed him. Then I plugged it in and powered it up. I'm like, it's fine. But it happens, he just got it and was like, he didn't think it was for him. So he figured he would just burn somebody else, which is really kind of lame. Michael, your question. I have an Ibanez S470 with a Sustainiac, if you're interested. You shredder? Seriously? The curse of Zuckerberg. I got zucked. That's so incredibly naughty, but so incredibly appropriate. Yeah, no, it's back doing this thing. Jason Price, what's going on, Jason Price? How are you doing, Shredder? In case you're one of those people that's being jettisoned here and there, apparently Facebook is being uncooperative, but thank you for joining us. Mark Bergstaller, how are you? The master of the slide. I'll give you the slide salute. Awesome. Brilliant guitar player, great friend. Ken, Steve, Dave, all these folks. Facebook is being a jerk. Sorry about that, folks. I appreciate you kind of coming back in. All right. So, Eric Beard, how are you? Okay. Neil Crouch. Speaking of Furman products, the Furman Power Factor Pro 1800 has worked well in many live situations where the power sources were questionable. Expensive, but it eliminates a lot of the worry about surges or sags. So, thank you, Neil. Appreciate it. So there was another venue, and you might have heard me talk about it in one of the streams, called The Farm. And it was kind of like some hippie commune where they had like a venue kind of down on Army Street, which is now Cesar Chavez in San Francisco. So, dating myself, but the power, like I was using an STE 3000 in my rig, and we'd be playing, all of a sudden I just look over and it's just peaking in the red because of power surges. And I'm like, so I literally just reached over, I pulled everything out of the effects loop and powered the STE 3000 down and called it a day. Yeah, it can trash your gear. The interesting thing is, considering it was obviously surging to the point where that happened, the JC120s, which is I think what I was using then, and the I might have been using. It's a funny story. I got a funny story. You want a funny gear story? So Joe Satriani and I used to share a teaching studio, and so it was funny. So confessions, the gear confessional. So I used to sneak down in the middle of the night and play his guitars. Not super often, but often enough that, and honestly, that's really not cool. So decades later, I fessed up. And then Joe was well, like, I didn't tell you, but I borrowed your amp and I used it on surfing. And if it wasn't surfing, it was not in the surf, but I'm pretty sure it was surfing. So I had a GG110, which was this great little combo that Gorilla stole somebody's circuit. I had two of them. They sounded great. The one got stolen out of somebody's car, and the other one ended up dying. But it was a really cool little amp. Gorilla's gone, but this amp had a vibe, and I think I was using a pair of them in stereo, and I think that's what I was using at the farm. But they didn't get blown up. Oh no, spinning wheel. Great. Thank you, Facebook. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Can you recommend some great wah pot replacements that figure to a regular GCB 95? Dunlop, I am 99.9% positive has a replacement pot. But let's see. Let's go over to our browser. And we're looking at me laughing about something. But let's take a look at Jim Dunlop. Dunlop.com. Well, I know they sell replacement picks. Wah pot. And yeah. Didn't like that. Oh, I gotta agree to the terms of service. So what is a customer experience and delays? Okay, yeah, that's great. What happened to my wah pot? Products. Oh, okay, electronics, wahs, accessories. Here we go. Come on, load, baby. Strings. Wow, that's really strange. All right, hold on. Dunlop wah pot replacement. There we go. It even comes up. There we go. All right. So there we go. There it is, right there. So I will post this link in the feed. And I'm going to post this over here as well. If I can get to the right place. Hello, Don Oaks. And my apologies that Facebook is being persnickety. Okay, awesome. All right, good. All right, so we've answered some questions. I am back in the right scene. So we've talked about buying and selling gear. Now I want to talk about collecting gear. So one of the fun things that I've had the opportunity to do over the years, I'm going to jump back into Safari here, and I probably should have set the scene up, was I've been able to collect some gear. And right there, you're looking at the cover of Vintage Guitar Magazine. So my Vintage Ibanez collection was featured on the cover of Vintage Guitar. And so I spent a lot of time collecting those instruments. And I actually think they use that image of those three guitars there on their buyer's guide. So April 2012, not to totally date myself, but that was cool. So collecting gear is one of the things that is appealing to me. And this right here is a scene. Dunlop did a movie called Crybaby, the Pedal That Rocks the World. There's a little scene here where they kind of run through a couple of different pedals. And that gives us a great opportunity to run over to the one and the only Wacom. So what we've got here is that same Fox pedal, the fuzzy Fox. I mean, it's a pedal that you just kind of want to treadle and then kind of touch. It's a strange kind of material. And this thing's got to be, I don't know, 30, 40 years old. This guy right here is, if you've ever seen Led Zeppelin circa 1969, you'll see Jimmy Page using one of these wahs. Let's see. Let's add me. Let's add me here. There's the Dobster. Oops. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Oh, hold on. Oh, I got to do this. Come on. Wait. Do that. Come on. You're supposed to add me down there. There we go. All right. Good. So this is what's really neat about this is basically the some people say it's a prototype. I don't think it is, but what's really interesting is if you take a look at where it says input, it's a sticker. I mean, it's just like, and the housing. I actually have a housing, and you can actually see that they've plugged a hole here. These original housings were from their volume controls, volume pedals for their keyboards. So the original wah wah, that's a sticker. It's kind of one of the things you see with beginning pedal companies. They kind of do that. Another pedal that came that I got right around the time that I was studying with Joe Satriani was this original Vox Clyde, and this is kind of, these two pedals are probably worth a small fortune. But what's neat about this original Clyde here, the picture Clyde preceded this, and this is what they call the script Clyde. But this I got at Subway Guitars in Berkeley, California, and I got it while I was studying with Joe, so I got it about 1983 or so. And the Dunlop folks, when they were making the reissue of that pedal, am I on the right scene? There we go. Let's get out of the Wacom. Oops, no, Doppler, don't. There we go. When they were making the reissue of the Clyde picture wah, they ended up borrowing that to kind of take a look at the circuit. So I've had this really amazing relationship with the Dunlop folks, which has been really cool. So the thing about collecting gear is that, it's a very interesting time right now. First of all, if any of you have any questions about collecting gear, I do not profess to be an expert, but I've spent a ridiculous amount of time collecting it. So there are some things that I know and some things that I don't know. First of all, if it's too good a deal, it's too good a deal. Second of all, times like now are really good times where people start to let go of some of the gear that they aren't using. They're like, you know what, it's time to flip it. Now, the interesting thing is that right now is a time that the vintage market seems to be relatively stimulated. But at the same time, there are certain pieces that, sometimes, for example, I've got a vintage Les Paul, but it's got a neck crack. So for a classic collector, it's not necessarily a collectible piece. But for me, it means I can play it and not kind of freak out about it. So pieces like that aren't collector's pieces but are player's pieces, this is a great time to buy them because people start to kind of jettison pieces of gear that they don't necessarily want. So what it means is there is a little bit more gear on the market, and so long as it's not the hyper collectible stuff, you may be able to find some pricing that might be appealing to your pocketbook if that's kind of tickles your fancy. Let's see here. I'm okay. Hang on. Okay. Good. Chase tone. Yeah. Gee, Michael, you and I have not spent enough time geeking out on gear. So that's my buddy Michael Hodge again, talking about Kyle Chase and Chase tone. Kyle is awesome. And he makes some amazing gear. And I've got one of his Clyde reissue pedals, and it's awesome. He does a fabulous job. And Michael, you're precisely correct. He is fantabulous. Let's see here. And I don't know what Full Tone offers presently. The Kirk Cam. Oh, I love that. Yes, the Kirk Cam. It is, or it's a ham cam. That is pretty funny. That is really good. Very clever of you. Michael Ferris, hello. Thanks so much for joining us. Mark Swanson, how are you? Lincoln and I were talking about the Swanson clan not that long ago. Thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it. That's awesome. Ben, hello. Brian, hello. And three others whose names are not revealed. James Fox, 2 times in 2 days. FOX Fox. Calvin Peters, how are you? Good to see you, my man. Welcome back. James, I trust you had a great day. James is part of the PRS clan and an absolutely lovely guy. and I won't mention the show that we'll be talking about uh, when we launch it. But James Fox is going to be part of one of the coolest shows ever, and that's all I can say about that. That's all I can say about that. Don Oaks, hello. All right, um, so we've kind of been talking a little bit about the collector side of stuff. Hit me with thanks, Ben. Really appreciate it. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Hit me with some questions, but the short version of how I approach looking for collector stuff is similar to how I approach selling stuff on Reverb. Is that I'm going to go on and I'm going to look at, again, when I go to list something on Reverb, it's clean. I have lots of photos. I've got 100% positive feedback. Most of the vintage gear that I bought, I got on eBay, and it preceded Reverb. Hey, Mark. But these days, just about everything that I buy, I'm going to be buying on Reverb. It's just most of the basically when eBay made the move to start jacking up their rates and basically destroyed their massive community. I mean, if eBay had been smart, arguably eBay created Reverb. Is really what happened. There was a guy, oh gosh, I'm going to forget his name, but basically he invented something like Scott Trade, but it was a competitor. He sold it for $1 billion. Found the Chicago Music Exchange and Reverb, and then Reverb, in case you didn't know, has been sold to Etsy. So he just flipped it and made bazillions of dollars. But Reverb's really cool because there's, you can go in and, like we were doing with Sweetwater at the beginning of this thing, you can sort by the years and decades, and then generally, you can kind of sniff your way through the sellers. Again, the condition of the way something's been shot tells you a lot about the care and consideration of the person that's selling it. And that's, again, one of the reasons, if you look at the image behind me, if I'm going to open something up and you can see that, kind of that foam where the battery used to sit against, it's deteriorated. I don't want somebody to open that thing up and kind of go, it would have been nice if they told me. Now, that said, and besides that little piece of tape that's holding, hey, I went the right direction. No, I'm pointing the wrong way. There, that tape there. That's the battery cap. There's tape. There you go. There's the red tape there. I want them to see that. I don't want them to open up and go, wow, it would have been really cool if that person had either opened it up or bothered to disclose it. And, there's another thing is when I actually go to list this, heading back over to my keynote here, is that I will actually mention to these folks that these knobs are not the original knobs. They match, and they're actually really cool, but I actually have another one of these guys, and those aren't the original knobs. And I've never seen these knobs on there. They're really, really, really cool because the blue is actually pretty spot on, but they're not the original knobs. And because I don't believe them to be the original knobs, even though they kind of match, and they're all for the same knob, I don't want to kind of be a jerk and sell somebody short. So you start looking for these things, and on, for example, again, going to let's get over here and let's go over to, there we go. Let's go over to the Wacom again. You start looking for things like, things that you should see in a vintage piece of gear. So like you can see the edges of the rubber on the treadle plate have turned up. That's a pretty classic thing to have happen. The base plate there, it's all the right stuff. It doesn't look like somebody tried to recreate it. The other thing that I'm always looking for, and this is, anybody collects, vintage guitars. Sorry, I'm going out of my focus range here. There we go. Is, as odd as it sounds, ideally we want the original, not only just the feet, but the screws that go in with the feet. Those are some of the geeky collector stuff. It also begins to tell you how original something is. Like on a Strat, you want to be looking for, there we go. On a Strat, vintage Strats, at different times they had Phillips screws, and sometimes they didn't, as I recall. And I'm not enough of a vintage Strat collector to remember which it was, but I think the older ones in the 50s had straight head as opposed to Phillips, which I think came in the 60s. I could be totally wrong. So don't take my word for it. But the point being is this is where the other part of it is. This is where the research really comes in, is kind of go, okay, what are the things you're looking for in a particular era? For again, going back to the Wacom there, I knew that this guy, I needed to see that sticker. I needed to, not think that somebody recreated and kind of did something to kind of make it look vintage. Unfortunately, This guy did not have these 2 feet on it. And again, that's the sort of thing that as a collector you're looking for. But what's also cool, and I'm unscrewing this thing here without your ability to see me, is that as you look at the inductor that's in here, it's a very unique inductor that's in this circuit. Looks a little bit like the stack of dimes, but it's not the same inductor. And this little plate here is just, it's just a neat, or I should say circuit board. This is just a very unique, very rare circuit that none of the other wahs on the inside look like that. And if you look at the inside of that pedal, that's flipping clean. I mean, it's just like, holy cow. And, it's, it's an amazing little piece of history there. And so the moral of the story is that, I spent a lot of time putting together basically the history of the Dunlop wahs. And so I own virtually every pedal in the history of the Dunlop Crybaby lineage. There's one from the very, very early 70s that I haven't gotten yet, but at some point I'll add that to the collection. And I don't actually have a picture wah, and that's going to cost me a pretty penny. But the circuit, as I understand, the script wah and the picture wah are identical. But I will say, actually, the chase, one of the chase wahs, and I think he sent me 2. But the one that I've got is actually his take on the picture wah, and he does brilliant work. All right, let me see if anybody's got some questions here, so I can be of service. And don't hesitate to kind of take me to task here. Tony Librand, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. Okie dokie. Okay. Okay. There we go. Secret preamp pedal is killer. All right, hold on. Reading through the notes. The Kirk cam, that was so much fun. Okay, so the Synergy stuff. Boy, Michael Hodge, you are a gear nerd. Hats almost off to you. So the Synergy stuff, I have not yet had a chance to play through that yet, but I am looking forward to it. And so a brief history for those not yet indoctrinated. It basically, as I understand it, they were kind of the brainchild of Bruce Egnater, and they're these kind of little modules. And the first ones that I saw and played through were produced by Randall and distributed by U.S. Music, and they came here for a review, and I thought they sounded great. And speaking of cabinets, somebody asked about cabinets earlier. There was a Randall 412 cabinet that had a speaker emulation circuit in it that is probably a Bruce Egnater circuit, but that circuit was awesome. I mean, it just, the thing is that the one thing that I kind of wish, I have a number of different speaker simulators, but they never sound like the amp and your actual cab, even when you're using the right speaker and the right cab. It just never sounds one-to-one the same. And that circuit was the closest I've ever heard of what was coming out of the amp with what was coming out of Pro Tools. I was just like, and it would have been like a $400 cabinet, but I really regret buying it. Basically, it kind of has a grill that looks a little bit like a Mesa Boogie grill on the vintage boogies, where it's kind of a metal mesh. And I think if you look at the current Megadeth speaker cabinets, they've got kind of a grill like that. And I'm pretty sure Zakk Wylde's speaker cabinets have got kind of a grill like that. But there was a speaker emulation on the back of those cabinets, and gosh, it sounded great. Now, it's been a decade now, but in any case. So that kind of, the Kirk Hammett signature things that were modules that were in there. And then that thing ended. And then the Synergy stuff, as I understand, is basically based on what Bruce Egnater did. I don't know if he's directly involved in that. I think he is, but I'm not positive. But I have not had a chance to check out the Synergy stuff. But I'm very excited to. And we had, when we had Mr. Vi on the show, we had I think the marketing director for Synergy or something like that. And so, I've got a friend there now. So now that I'm stepping back into gear demo mode in a serious way, I'm excited about getting those up here. So Right. So, Michael, I didn't know you kind of did as much 80s because, okay, so Michael, for those of you that are on Facebook there, the Synergy mods will work well in the Egnator Rand lamps too. Look at you. The Randall stuff were not as good as the Egnator line. You gear geeked. I love it. I've been geeked. Chris Stark. Oh, you jumped over to YouTube. Oh, look at you. Got a pile of modules. Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations. That's right. I guess I knew that. Right. I'll be right over. Hawaiian vacation. Here I come. Ho, ho, ho. Russ Pittett, what's going on, my man? And Jay Kirkland, hello. All right. Excellent. Thanks so much. So, Russ, we're talking, let's talk gear, but that includes, video and related gear. So, bring it on. Bring it on. All right, let's see. All right, well, first of all, we've been on for about 2 hours, and at some point, I get to eat dinner. So I think we're closer than not to wrapping, but that's a little on my list. Michael, you and I need to take a trip back into the 80s. How long was your hair? I should say, how high was your hair? That's so funny. I've never owned a Soldano. That's awesome. Sorry, I'm interacting and reading. I've gotten better. Awesome, Russ. Oh, you just jumped over to YouTube. Hope you had a good day teaching. You know what? I can actually do this for a minute. Let's talk about teaching. First of all, anybody that's on there that is not asleep and teaches guitar, tell me about Chris Stark, you maniac. Tell me if you're teaching online, and tell me how that's going and kind of what's working and what's not, because that would be awesome. And depending on if I get any feedback or not, my chicken wings are calling. I can smell them. So here's the deal. I teach via Zoom, and I migrated to Zoom from Skype because Skype basically every 3 months or so would just kind of change their interface, and all the contacts would either just completely disappear, or you just couldn't find them. And traditionally, unlike streaming where I do a stream test in the afternoon, then I come back and I hop online when it's time for the stream. On a Saturday morning, you're not necessarily thinking, oh, I need to test Skype before I start teaching. So you come down to teach your first lesson, and traditionally I'm relatively impacted. At least the first several, 2 hours, 3 hours of teaching, it's all back to back. So if the first lesson's late, everything's late. And first of all, it's infuriating. And second of all, usually it involves going back to Microsoft and the password and who remembers their Microsoft Hotmail password? So at this point, I've created a password that I can always remember. But the point being is it's just a nightmare. Zoom mainly trying to get everyone over to Zoom. Absolutely. Russ Pettit, who I've known for years, brilliant player. So the thing about Zoom that's great is that, especially in combination, I'm going to plug next week's show, which again is streaming for musicians. We're going to have the founders of Ecamm Live. And they are still running the company. We're going to be on, and we're going to be. Ecamm right now has, if you will, quote unquote, native integration with Skype. We can kind of bring people in to Ecamm from Skype, kind of seamlessly in the background. But I'm going to have them come on via Zoom because it's going to enable me to deconstruct what I do with Zoom. And one of the things I do is I use a virtual webcam from Ecamm Live and feed that, as well as any visuals like mode charts and pentatonic forms and whatnot, and I feed that from Ecamm Live into Zoom. The other thing is that I'm using, hey Tom H, teaching on Zoom too. Depends on their Wi-Fi, but it's working so far. Yes, the curse of a student with bad connectivity. There's some things that frustrate me more than they should, but when I'm trying to teach somebody and I can tell that their connectivity is floundering, you're trying to get a rhythm and a rapport and trying to serve the student, but it's a little bit nuts. Congratulations, Norm, on your new PRS. Congratulations. All right, let's see here. Any teachers? There are no teachers on Facebook. Come on. Somebody there has to teach. All right. In any case, either that or Facebook's being persnickety again. Okay. So, boy, I can see that overlay still doing that thing. All right. So, with that said, Zoom is, I think, really good. Now, there are, what we'll do next week is we will go through one of the settings. But one of the things that we kind of, I learned on one of the streams that we did, it was the one when we did the Vi thing. Zoom, when you normally have it up and running, and I'm not going to easily be able to get into Zoom, so I'm not going to do that right now. But basically, there's a mode where you can basically do what's called turn on original audio, and or turn off original audio. And so basically, when it says turn off original audio, it's actually the original audio is on. And basically, what it's doing is Zoom sees your guitar as background noise. So that's why you want to have it in the mode where the original audio, the audio in the room, is on. So ironically, what Zoom says when it's on is it says turn off original audio. It's a little misleading. But that option is not always visible, so you have to kind of do a little bit of menu diving, which I'll walk through in the next time because I'll have that kind of set up to walk through that. But that enables you to use Zoom without having the guitar kind of disappear as it kind of gets buried, and it hears it as a cancellation. So, boy, YouTube is so delayed right now. Very strange what's happening there. Okay, actually, I just scrubbed on the timeline there. Okay, so the idea of using Zoom is so nice because so many people are using it. The other thing that I've got that's going to be showing up, hello, Eric Martin Bureau. Good to see you, my man. Over on YouTube. But obviously, these things have gotten bad enough on Facebook that people are like, go to YouTube. Thank you, by the way. So the thing is, I've got the new 4K webcam from Logitech. It's coming. If it hasn't arrived, it's going to come in the next hour from, as you guessed, Amazon. And the reason I'm doing all of this, Andy, do me a favor. If you're on Facebook, just DM me. And then what I try not to do is when I'm streaming, go, hey, here's my contact information. It never. Yeah, I like to do just the smallest amount of vetting, but just DM me. Anybody that would be interested in lessons, hit me up. And within reason. And it's like, hey, I've got this problem. Hit me up. I'm usually good about getting back to people within reason. As Russ will tell you, I do eventually get back to people. So the point being, I'm eager to check out this Logitech 4K webcam that I didn't get it from Amazon. My bad. I got that from the Apple Store. Or I should say from Apple. And so it's a 4K, and I had the old Logitech 920, and I think that was replaced by the 920S. But generally, Russ, have a great night. Bon appetit. The stock camera on even this new, I'll go there, sure. This new iMac, there it is. Just terrible. And I could put the green screen up on it, but I won't. It's just, they should be embarrassed to have a camera that's that bad. It's a 2019 iMac. I'm just like, really, guys? In any case, micro rant over. The point being is that I'm excited to check out the this 4K webcam, specifically not for me, but for the music teachers that are out there. Because here's the deal. I've found different ways to connect my old 1080p camcorders, and I love them. That's what I've got for the Jam Cam, and I've got for basically for my A camera. I'm running my 7D there for the Wacom. I've got another 7D that I've now gotten um, that I'm about to get up and running, and then I also have the 4K Panasonic camcorder. So I'm about to really have a ridiculous amount of throughput. But the deal is that not everybody wants to go out and buy a camera. But I also have the EOS R, which is a mirrorless camera. It's an expensive body, and the glass is equally expensive. So, but part of it is because first of all, the lenses I bought when we were shooting with DSLRs. So with an adapter, you can use those old lenses, and they have an amazing look. This shot I had for the Wacom, I literally swapped lenses, and this is a Sigma lens, which is not nearly as cool as the actual Canon lens, which is I think it's a 22 through 70 or something like that. It's a gorgeous lens. Like, the first time I plugged that into USB here and I saw the image it presented, I was like, it's just a gorgeous look. It's to me is the prettiest image I've seen as I did anything streaming related. But the neat thing is that camera there is 10 years old, and the thing is that and this 1080p camcorder, which I have a pair, because I like to have the color match. Although I haven't color corrected these two matching, and the Jam Cam and this one are a little bit they don't totally match yet, but that's an easy fix. The point being is I like to have cameras such that I can go back and forth between the A cam and the B cam and not get freaked out about the colors. The thing that I love about the Canon stuff is that it sees the actual color of a guitar like this Pink Strat. Like the moment I plugged that camera in, I was like, the color's right. It's just great. It was really special. So the point being is not everybody has some old 7Ds lying around. They don't necessarily have 4K camcorders. They don't have a pair of Panasonic 1080p camcorders that they used to use. They're just like, hey, I just want to teach guitar. I don't want to be spending money to make money. So the idea about this 4K webcam, it's $200. But the thing is that I want to get a chance to see how well it works, first of all, just for streaming, but also being able to bring it in as your webcam for Zoom. Because for guitar teachers, having a good quality presentation, it's part of teaching in a place that doesn't have, mice and doesn't smell like something died in the wall. And it matters. So in any case, Melissa just messaged somebody. So Andy Guitar, do me for on Facebook, DM me if I said PM. Okay, or Melissa hopped on and thanks, Mel. So the point being is that one of the things about next week's stream that's so important to me is that we're going to have people that actually design the software, and Ecamm Live is a software application as opposed to a hardware, of which we're also going to be reviewing different hardware stuff, but not next week. I've got one from TAC that's here that I'm about to review, and I'm excited to be able to dig into that. But the thing is that Ecamm Live is specifically a Mac application. It works really well. There's a ton of great features, and the ability to feed that back into Zoom is a huge thing for me. And kind of there are a range of things that I do with it in combination with the different applications I use. And we'll also be talking about an application called Loopback that allows you to kind of route audio inside your Mac. And that's been kind of one of the things is that because I'm using an external audio interface, when I'm bringing audio in, sometimes if I'm using the interface to feed to something like the Plini plugin, well, the direct signal is still wandering around inside the audio feed of the computer, and sometimes it just goes straight out into whatever the stream is. That is one of the things that, by kind of knowing your way around Loopback, is one of the things you can prevent happening. Because, again, kind of you see happen from time to time. When I go from the Facebook, when you first launch Facebook onto, your page, and then you go to the place where you can actually see the chat refresh, and interact with it. And, what happens is that as soon as you do that, even if the audio is the volume's all the way down, it goes up full blast, and then you start getting the leak. So it just happens, but the thing is that knowing how to route the audio such that then in turn, as you're bringing people in, if say you want to have somebody, you want to stream and have a guest, or you want to have Chris Stark coming on to talk about what Hawaii's like and what it's like to have done the Satriani thing, and all those people that I had in Zoom, you have to be very conscious of how the audio is floating around your computer, and it can be messy. Yes. Okay. Awesome. Excellent. Thanks so much, Andy. Appreciate it. Let's head back over to Facebook here. John Bowman. Hello. Speed Wagner. Steve Serena. How you doing, bro? Another band bro. Great to see you, my man. Okie dokie. Tom. Boy, it's like Facebook has been on and off and on and off. Steve, I trust you're doing great. Okay. Well, here's the thing. Next week, as I've been saying, and I will say yet again, it's going to be streaming for musicians. And we're going to be talking in depth with the founders of Ecamm Live. I may or may not have some additional panelists come on, but the idea is really talking about all the nuances, the nuts and bolts, because I think pretty much everybody that hangs out here is interested in figuring out how they're going to present, whether it's their lessons, whether it's, they want to get on and jam. I mean, here's the thing is that streaming is the new stage. I mean, let's be honest. And the great thing about the stage is you have the same stage that Joe Satriani and Steve Vai do. John Luini can't be on my show next week because he's working on, something with somebody whose name I can't mention. Probably said more than I needed to. But the point being is that, the point being is that everybody's streaming. Joe's on there. Steve's on there. You're on there. I'm on there. So the idea is my mission is to kind of help people as we're kind of on this mission together. Again, the gear part of this is really important, knowing what to buy, knowing what to do when you go onto Amazon. In preparation for next week's show, I will have this list together, and I'm going to be using something called kit.co. 99% positive that's what I'm going to use. And the other thing is I'm going to be talking about the different things that I use in the midst of kind of wrapping the streaming experience. What's going on, Urson? How you doing? The streaming experience with the ability to monetize what you do. So we're going to talk about some of those other things as well. I use something called Kajabi for course material. As some of you heard me say numerous times now, I did something with Sweetwater and Line 6 for the worship community. Basically, it's a Helix training course for people who've just first-time Helix users who've just bought a Helix from Sweetwater. And so it's the first kind of course curriculum I've done with that, and it was really great. It's not a cheap platform to use, but in terms of laying out course curriculum, it was awesome. So again, as all of us are kind of looking at this new paradigm, this new time that we're in, we're going, how can I literally got an email from a guy who was on the thread earlier, who's a great guitar player, just kind of going, hey, tell me about Kajabi. So it's all kind of interrelated because we're all kind of trying to figure out the same thing. So I have the unique pleasure and privilege of being able to help serve you in this process. So with that said, I look forward to seeing you next week. I thank you for hanging out tonight. I apologize on behalf of Zuck that Facebook was having a rough night. Life is not always fun for Mark Zuckerberg. So, I certainly do benefit from Facebook a great deal. So I do appreciate, the fruits of his labor. Everybody that's been hanging out on YouTube, thanks so much. I really appreciate, everybody checking in and just thanks so much. Just being part of what I have the privilege of doing. Have a great night. And do me a favor. Next week is, for me, a really important show. If you can come, that'd be great. I'll be putting out some posts and whatnot. If you could be so kind as to kind of share some of that stuff on your feeds, I would really, really, really appreciate it. Because it's a really important show in terms of some of the prep work I'm doing for that show. But also in terms of the mission of the show. My guess is you have friends that will benefit from it. And as I'm laboring to kind of raise my game here and all of this, it helps to expand the audience in the process. So your help in doing that would be greatly appreciated. Regardless, I hope to see you here next week. Thanks for hanging out tonight. and have a great evening. And until next time, cheers.